Hi everyone and welcome back to chemistry. This is Mrs. Hutchinson and today we're going to talk about scientific measurements, but more specifically single metric conversions, and we're going to stick with using reference table C. So if you don't have your reference tables out, please get them out and turn to reference table C. It can be found right on the front, so pause this until you have them out. So now we're going to continue where we left off in the notes. And we're going to use reference table C to convert between the units without prefixes and units containing prefixes. So basically our base units are fundamental units, and we're converting to prefixed units. So we're going to start off by solving this example problem here. We've got how many milligrams are there in 439 grams? Now many of you probably know how to do this, but as our conversions are going to get a little trickier, I want to make sure that you know the process. So the first thing that you want to do is identify what prefix you're working with. So we're working with milli, which means, hey, on reference table C, we're going to be using that particular conversion. So we're going to take this and make our conversion factor with it. So remember, we put our base unit behind the factor. We have an equal sign, 1 in front of our symbol, and then our base unit behind the symbol. Okay, so now we're going from grams. Grams is our base unit, so we have 10 to the negative third grams equals 1 milligram. So if we write this conversion factor, we have 10 to the negative third grams equals 1 milligram. And this is going to be our conversion factor that we are going to use to do all of these calculations, to convert from grams to milligrams. So you might want to make sure that you have this conversion factor nice and handy at all times, as I will be referring to it throughout this lesson. So now, step 1. It's a great step. It's also the easiest. So step 1, you're going to make a T-chart. We're going to use this T-chart throughout our entire conversion. That's a pretty easy step. Everybody likes that step. The next step, step 2, means put whatever value with units that the question has given you to convert in the top left corner. So our question said we have to convert 439 grams to milligrams. So our question gave us 439 grams. So that's what we're going to put in the top left. We're going to leave this bottom part blank. That's only there for dealing with, say, grams per milliliter or something, units for density, or something of that nature, velocity, anything like that. So step 1, make a T. Step 2, put whatever the question has given you and the units in the top left quadrant of our T-chart. Next step, what we're going to do is we're going to continue on with our T-chart. So we've got our 439 grams up here. And if you think of this like a fraction, grams are in the numerator. In order to cancel out the gram unit, we have to put that gram unit on the bottom. Numerator here, denominator here. So then they can eventually cancel. That's step 3. So put the units that are in the question in the top left, and you need to put them in the bottom right so that they will cancel each other out. It's always going to be the case. Next step, put whatever units we're trying to find in the top right. So we've got 439 grams. We now have grams here, so it can cancel each other out. And we're trying to convert to milligrams. So remember, the goal of this conversion is to get from grams to milligrams. Now here's where our conversion factor comes into play. Remember that we made on the first slide here. Step 5, I tell you to put a 1 in front of the unit, whatever unit has the prefix in it. Well, it makes sense because that's in our conversion factor. 439 grams. We've got grams down here so they can cancel. Milligrams up top. But remember, our conversion factor stated 10 to the negative third grams equals 1 milligram. Because our conversion factor has a 1 in front of milligrams, that is the value we're going to place in front of milligrams. That's why we place a 1 in front of the unit that has a prefix in it. You can probably guess what we're going to place in front of grams, because that's what's in our conversion factor. Step 6, we're going to place whatever the prefix means in front of the unit without the prefix. So again, 439 grams. Grams goes down here to cancel. Milligrams up top. We've got our conversion factor of 10 to the negative third grams equals 1 milligram. So since our conversion factor has a 1 in front of the milligrams, again, that's the number you're going to put in front of that exact unit in our conversion. Since we have a 10 to the negative third in front of our grams unit, we're going to put 10 to the negative third in front. And now, all we're simply going to do for our last step is going to be to calculate. So, we're going to multiply the stuff on top and then divide by the stuff on the bottom. So we're going to multiply this and divide by that. And here's what I mean. So here's what I mean by that. Multiply 439 times 1, and you're going to divide by the stuff on the bottom. And we're going to come out with our answer of 439,000 milligrams. Now the question you want to ask yourself is, does that make sense? Well, it better make sense because milligrams are a smaller unit than grams, so you're going to need more of them to make up the same value. So yes, it most certainly makes sense. See, we multiplied the stuff on the top and then divided by the stuff on the bottom. In our case, we got 439,000 milligrams. So now we're going to do a couple more examples. All right, so how many liters are there in 6.25 times 10 to the 8th picoliters? So let's make our conversion factor. So we've got 10 to the negative 12 liters equals 1 picoliter. Step 1, make our T-chart. Step 2, write our given value in the upper left with units, 6.25 times 10 to the 8th picoliters. We then write the units that we're trying to cancel out. So the units that are given to us, we write those same units in the bottom right so they can cancel. We then write the units that we're trying to convert to in the upper right. And then last but not least, we're going to write the values that we find in front of those units for our conversion factor on our table. So we have 1 picoliter, so the 1 is going to go in front of picoliters because that is what we found here. And we have 10 to the negative 12th in front of liters because that's what's found on our conversion factor here. And then we simply multiply straight across. So we are going to get 6.25 times 10 to the 8th times 10 to the negative 12. And hopefully we were able to get 6.25 times 10 to the negative 4th liters. And does that make sense? You betcha it does, because the fact that a liter is a larger unit than a picoliter. So we would anticipate that value to be very small compared to the picoliter value. Next one would be, how many meters are there in 9.36 micrometers, or micrometers if you will. Step 1, you're going to create your conversion factor. So we're using the prefix micro. So we've got 10 to the negative 6 meters equals 1 micrometer or micrometer. Then make our T-chart. We're going to place what was given in the question, so 9.36 micrometers in the upper left, 9.36 micrometers. We're then going to place that same unit so it can cancel out in the bottom right. And we're going to place the unit that we're trying to convert to, which is meters, in the upper right. We're then going to take a look at our conversion factor and figure out what number is in front of each unit. So we've got a 1 in front of micrometers. So we put a 1 in our T-chart. And then we have a 10 to the negative 6 in front of meters. We simply multiply straight across and divide. So let's go ahead and do that. So we get 9.36 times. And then we multiply straight across, and our final answer is going to be 9.36 times 10 to the negative 6th meters. Okay, so now what I want you to do is work on our converting metric units worksheet number 1. So I'm going to show you how to do the first one. I want you to use the same steps that we have been using, so use the T-charts and things like that, and use our reference table C. So we have 120 grams, and I want you to convert those to milligrams. So the first thing you want to do is create our conversion factor. So here is our conversion factor that we're going to be using. 10 to the negative 3rd grams is equal to 1 milligram. Next step, create our T-chart. If you write big, by the way, you might need an extra sheet, just so you know. We're going to place what was given in the upper left. So 120 grams. We're going to place that same unit in the lower right so it can cancel out. We're then going to place our milligrams, the unit that we're trying to convert to, on top. Taking a look at our conversion factors themselves. So we have a 1 in front of milligrams, so we're going to place a 1 in front of milligrams in our T-chart. We're going to place 10 to the negative 3 in front of grams because that's what's in our conversion factor. We're going to multiply straight across. So we are going to have 120 over 10 to the negative 3. So in dividing, and we're going to come out with an answer of, hopefully we can do this, 120,000 over here milligrams. Okay, so go ahead and do this worksheet, and I will talk to you in the next video.